Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's NKBA KBiz webinar, How AI Analytics Can Help Improve Your Business. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing today's speaker, Thaddeus Wittenberg, President of Kitchen and Bath Global Partners. Thad, please take it away.
I'm really excited about where AI analytics is going and how it's going to impact our industry. So look forward to some of the questions at the end. I think we all have questions as to how it's going to, I guess, weave its way into our every aspect of our business and how it's going to start transforming those. And what we've found so far has been really exciting. So the first slide I have here, which I show a lot of people, is if you can't measure something, it's really hard to improve it. And I think one of the challenges that most kitchen and bath dealers have is being able to pull the information to be able to look at it and understand what is going on within the company, the business, as far as the metrics are concerned. It's an extremely important part of any business to have reliable live information coming to you and being able to take that information and turn it into action items that are going to improve your business. What is AI analytics? Good question. It's basically set up with certain techniques to analyze complex data that's in there. And it does it extremely fast, and it's pulling it from every aspect that it's seeing this different data. And from there, it's going to uncover insights, more correlations that are going on within that information, and predict outcomes, make suggestions. It's certainly going to support your decision-making process when you see the numbers and it's saying, hey, if you start doing a couple of these things, the number over here, this metric, this key performance indicator is going to improve based on those actions. And it's something that kitchen bath dealers have never had access to. First the information, but then setting it up so there's parameters to those metrics, like whether it's margin erosion or gross margin per person. Once you have those in place too, AI analytics could take your information and start measuring it up against the goals that are out there, understand where you are, understand where you want to be, and then it will start listing out possible options as to what you can do from that point to work on those particular numbers. So here's the order that it goes in as you're using AI analytics for your businesses out there. The first things you go through is, what do you want to measure? The second ones are going to be identify how you're going to be able to pull that information. And as you'll see, when you start setting up manual processes to put these numbers together and look at those, it becomes very labor intense, and a lot of times it's the timing of it is not consistent, and the accuracy is another part of it. So when you're setting up how to collect that data, you really want to make sure it's as automated as possible. And that if any of the information is missing, it's going to key you into it. So if someone's supposed to put something into the system, when this happens and it's not happening, it's going to alert you that that information was not included in this so that you can correct it. And so you're seeing a really clear overall picture of what's going on within the business. Setting the parameters and guidelines to say, hey, this is where you should be, those goals I just mentioned. And then one of the most important things is creating that operational improvement plan. The one thing I've found over the years is that a lot of dealers or any business out there can be giving information, right? They go to a webinar, they can do this, But the biggest part of taking that information, that knowledge, and applying it to your business is how are you going to do that? How are you going to take this information and put it into a format where you can bring the team together, get everybody engaged, and how to move it from its current state to its target state, which is really a process improvement methodology. And for the most part, most of the dealers that I've talked to do not have something like that in place. And we're going to talk about why it's so important to have something consistent, because it will help you move through the process of improving things much faster. Here are some of the ones. These are mine. The things that I think are some of the most important metrics. There's certainly a lot of other key performance indicators that I didn't list here, and that are just as important in some cases. But I just wanted to hone in on these. The first one, which is very prevalent in our industry for dealers, is margin erosion. Margin erosion is when you've set up an estimated cost for a job, and when you start adding additional costs that weren't planned for, that's what affects the margin. So you may have started a job at a 35 margin, and then after all the dust settles, it's at a 31 margin. So you had 4 points of margin erosion. I would fancy a guess that it's at least 3 points as average in our industry. And I know a lot of people would say, oh my gosh, $2 million in sales, that's $60,000 in lost margin. There's no way it's that much until we get down and start looking deep into these projects and all the additional costs that are getting tossed on the top of it because of the mistakes in different parts of the process that happen. So those are real numbers, and that doesn't even include the soft cost, which is even more expensive than the hard cost because it's tying up everybody's time to correct these things. This is one of the things I love about being able to pull this information, start tracking it, put it into AI analytics to give you a real clear picture of what's going on so you can do something from there. As you know, in most cases, a problem comes, we throw money at it to get through it, and then move on to the next job without really looking at what the source was and why it happened. Because when you don't do that, it's very likely to happen again. And then the last one on here is the referral ratio, which I'll spend a little bit more time on, but it has an incredible impact on your business when it comes to the ratio that you have between the number of customers and how many referrals are generated from them. The increase, if it's a 0.2, then if you have 10 customers, you're going to generate 2 new customers from referrals. And that's where I see a lot of them. I know people say they get a lot of referrals, and I'm sure they do. But when I started looking at the numbers, sometimes it is 0.2, sometimes 0.3, but you don't see it much higher than that. I think the expectations of the dealers are that it is, because, but the other thing is we're not measuring it. So it's kind of a guess. Knowing accurately what those numbers are to tell you where you are, and then we can talk about how do you get to that next level, because again, the increase in sales is pretty substantial. What information are you currently collecting, and then how are you collecting it? Is it spreadsheets that are feeding into something else that you're sharing during the meetings, and everybody's entering those that information as they go through jobs? Again, the focus on getting clarity on these numbers and capturing that information as it flows through your business is extremely hard when a couple things don't happen. First of all, that you don't have systems that are running the business. Any business that wants to collect information has to have some kind of system to be able to do that and then start showing you the dashboards of what it's collected. The other part of that is the accuracy of what you're pulling in there and the benchmarks, so that when you're collecting this information, the last thing you want to happen is that people start to be suspect of the numbers. Like, oh, this wasn't included, that wasn't included. So then it's kind of like, well, that's really just an estimate. And that kind of lowers the power that these numbers have when you're talking to people. You want them to feel really good about these numbers. Uh, People, when they see here's where they are and here's where they want to be, it's amazing how motivated sometimes these people, everybody will get to be able to move the needle. And that's really what we have to look at as we go through this. I'm showing just the margin erosion root causes of why something has happened. When I set this up in AI analytics, which I've already done, uh, like Chat at GPT, if anybody's using that. If not, I would highly recommend it. Started using it over a year ago at least, and it's not a day that goes by that I'm not using it in one aspect or another. And the time I'm saving just by using that, just to get information, pull things together, is saving me hours a week. And when you start adding that up, that's a significant amount of time. And that leads to increased productivity, because what typically might take a couple hours to get together can be pulled together in 10 minutes. All that additional time can be used in the performance of the company. And you can see this one, we set a parameter in there for 1.5% on the root cause of the gross margin. And you can also, it will provide you with these type of visuals to help reinforce where the numbers are, so people can actually see them and understand where they want to take those numbers to. Alerts can be set up too, which will be within the system. So if something's happening and it starts to go over the 1.5, like during the job, the owner or the manager usually doesn't know that information until the job's over and you're about to pay it. And then you find all these issues that might have happened during the project. When you can set up alerts about what's happening, it can let you know, hey, we've got a job right now that's got 6 margin points of erosion. That might get somebody's attention to go look at that job and try to understand what's going on earlier in the process instead of afterwards. That's the nice thing about gathering this information and running it through the AI, is that you are getting this immediate information coming to you, so that you're able to respond to it in a more quickly timed fashion. It's like marketing. Like the next phase of AI analytics is not only giving you the information, but also having the wherewithal to be able to change things. If you have it connected to your website and it's watching the traffic that's out there, and AI starts noticing that one door style has started to become extremely popular because everybody is hitting on it to look at the different kitchens with that door on there, it could have the ability to say, I'm going to put that door style in a more prominent spot, or we may run a promotion on it, or whatever you've set up for AI. Like, if you see these things happening, this is recommendations of what we want to do. And these things can change instantly as they see this information and make adjustments accordingly as they watch the traffic go through your website, and then be able to report out to you in a summary fashion of what it's seeing, and then also make recommendations. Some of them may already been applied, some of them may be waiting for the okay to go ahead and do something. And AI will be able to go in there and change those parameters. The amount of connections, like the integration of these softwares is becoming more and more common. Like we'll be connected to, I think, six other different softwares here soon, including 2020 Pro Kitchens, QuickBooks, list goes on and on. And all that information is passing from one to the other. The old model was that you have these silo information packs, like this one does this and this one does this, but they don't talk to each other. And they've got information that crosses over in how it impacts one side to the other. And when they're not pulled together through these APIs, it's hard to be able to understand all the information when it's separated like that. So integration is going to be huge. Every software shouldn't focus on being everything. It should be able to connect to different softwares that are out there that are focused on a certain type of action that software does, what it was developed for. And you can see some of these in here, the performance that I talked about, the operational efficiency that can come through here, setting up the goals that we talked about. I really like the predicted trends because I've run some of those recently. And when you have something set up and it's following quoting activity or whatever you think is important, it's going to start letting you know that, you know what, with the activity I'm seeing and the closing ratios that are out there, I could estimate that your sales in about 4 months are going to run 320,000 for the month or whatever that number is, because it's taking the past data, all that historic data that was in there, pulling it, making estimates, and it only gets better and better because it's going to start seeing what the real numbers are. I've put P&Ls in there. I've set those up so that it understands every category as far as margins and cost of goods sold. Also with the expense model that's in there. Those things can be flagged when something shows up, an irregularity within what's happening, which is great. It's just, it'll ping you when important things are happening within your organization. Here is the process improvement methodology that I mentioned before, and you can use anyone that you like. I prefer, this is kind of a mix of a couple of them that are out there, but have your own, find one. There's plenty of them out there, and then start using it on a consistent basis. Like every time you need to do a process improvement, use the exact same methodology, because what happens is everybody starts to get comfortable with how it works, what information needs to be gathered, and who's going to be responsible for what. That really simplifies things because you have to have a process to improve a process. And we'll also get analytics in here where it will say, out of the 6 steps that are in there in performing, I would say step number 3 is the one that's the most convoluted, the one that's causing extra time, the one that's causing more mistakes, and say, okay, well, this is what we see. What do you recommend? And now it can start working with the people there. I know sometimes people think of AI analytics, maybe in a fearful way, like, is it going to take over everything? I'm not going to be going over AI design. It's certainly coming. I just, any more bomb threats, I'm just teasing. But, people are concerned about AI design. I really see it as an assistant to help designers out there. Plus, all these things to improve operational efficiency. I mean, people don't like having to place orders or, get a door, set up to get a door purchased and send an installer out there. We can eliminate a lot of those extra non-value activities that are taking place, and designers will be able to spend more time designing working with customers, making selections, improving the experience and the journey for the customer, instead of all behind the scenes work that nobody really likes to do that much because most of it's very manual and time consuming. Here is the tracking mechanism. We're looking at different ways to improve the operations. We're going to set up these type of graphs to show where we are as we trend month to month. Again, these visuals are very powerful. I mean, it tells you right away what the trends are and where you want to take that particular metric. So this is important to have in place. And again, AI analytics can set this up for you. You can say, here's the numbers. Why don't you put why don't you put a graph together and show me what the results are? Boom. I mean, within, a minute, it already has it in place. If you don't like it, you can adjust it, and then continue to use the same one. If it fits the needs and it gives you clarity as to what you're looking for. And as you're hearing me go through these processes and what AI analytics can start taking off your plate, it's going to put the owner and the leader of that dealership in a different position. It's called not being reactive, it's called being proactive, because we are in an industry and a business that has a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of moving parts. It's not like selling a hammer. A lot of things have to come together, and there's things that fall through the cracks. And so, a lot of time is spent making sure that these customers are taken care of and doing all the things behind the scenes to correct it. But again, that is a very reactive position. Nothing's moving forward because you're not doing anything about what the cause is of these. And I think the great thing about it is that this is going to allow leaders to start working on the business instead of in the business. It's probably one of the number one things that I hear from a dealer is that I don't have time to work on that stuff. I go in Monday morning and I know what I'm going to be facing with problems and jobs. And even if I wanted to do it, it's going to just blow up. And it's the urgent stuff that is going to overwhelm the important. We always take on the urgent because it has to be taken care of. The important stuff is things that you're working on in the future. And we rarely get any time to do that because we're spending in reactive time. That's going to change. And that means that the leaders are going to continue to learn how to make better decision making and with the help of AI. I think it's going to be a great thing because I think many times the dealers have wanted to move into a category where they could start being more proactive. I think gathering the information, all the things that we talked about, are going to start minimizing the amount of time they have to spend in the reactive category and can start planning for the future. I'll tell you why that is so important these days, because everything is moving very quickly. It's like someone put fuel on the fire when AI came into place. And AI is only going to continue to learn and get better at what it's doing. And when it can help you substantially within your business operations, now you can take a step back, look at the metrics, the key performance indicators that are out there, and start planning. And it's not just to fix problems like how are we going to be able to set designers up across the country because we have a virtual showroom that they can use, or how are we going to start selling more online? These can all become a focus now, and you'll able the ability to work on them because you've removed all the wasteful time that you've been spending just keeping the business going and making sure that all those other things are taken care of. Good. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I have to tell you, this ratio that I kind of landed on maybe I don't know, 6 months ago. I really am a person who loves the numbers. I like following the metrics that follow the business because they're very telling. It's going to say, here's where they are in this category. Here's how they're doing over here. And, to understand those and then have goals that are in there, that's something that's going to make any business better. The other thing on this is I see too many P&Ls out there by the dealers that don't have a return on sales, the profitability that I feel like that's where that number should be. I like to see kitchen and bath dealers pulling about a 15% profit to the bottom line. Now, is that an overnight thing? No. But as you start embracing technology and bringing it within your organization, you'll be able to reach those numbers. It may be 10, maybe as some of you are already there, I just don't see it that common, and then getting it up to that 15 number. Because I see the amount of work that these owners are putting into their business. And I keep saying, oh wow, it's too bad you're not getting the profitability out that equals all what you're putting into the business. And I think having these metrics using AI analytics are going to put you in a position where you can start seeing that profitability. And if you're looking at an exit strategy, 2, 3 years down the road, the value of your business is going to increase like fivefold because it's going to be running like a machine. And that's what people pay for when they buy a business. So it's important, even if you're not leaving the industry, that your performance levels are out there to help generate the profitability that you're looking for. So back to this referral ratio is someone had asked me about the return on marketing, and they said, hey, if I spend 4,000 and get 40,000 in sales from it, that's good, right? And I was like, no, that's not so good because $4,000 on 40 is like 10 margin points, and 10% is a lot. That number should be much closer to 2 or 3%. And so I started going through an analysis to see how this would impact a company when they're getting referrals. If you look at the right side over there, this is a 0.2, which means they get 2 additional customers. And in this scenario, we had 30 new customers coming on board. That's obviously the total new customers it was going to generate was 34.5. And the original number was 600,000 in additional business. Now that you're at the 0.2, you're up to 690,000. So you grew about 15% in sales from the new sales that were coming in. You can see the marketing costs down there, which is running 7.2%, which is pretty high. I also put the closing ratio at 75% because even if someone is referred, it doesn't mean they always buy. And usually referrals are a pretty high closing ratio, a very high closing ratio. But I left it at 7.5, so we are having that aspect in the numbers, so it's a reflection is going to be more accurate. And then you can also see what the customer acquisition cost is at the bottom. It's almost, getting near $1,500 a customer, which is expensive. And so I took it to a 0.6, which means that if you have 10 customers, you're going to end up getting 6 additional customers. That generated 53 and a half. And now look at the sales generated. The first number with no referral ratio was 600,000. That means all you got was the 30 customers that came in through marketing and didn't get any referrals. Under this scenario at the 0.6, not only 600,000, but an extra 470,000. And you can see what the increase was was 78%. Now, you may look at that and say, like, well, what am I supposed to do? Maybe if I can start tracking it, but how do I get that number higher? Well, AI analytics can certainly help. Like, how would you like to know per salesperson how many what their referral ratio is? You may have people at point 0.7 and point 0.2 in your organization. Well, that's going to that's telling just by itself out there and directing you towards maybe that particular designer and working through what the customer experience is and the follow up. One of the other nice things that AI can do is start looking at the profile of the customers that are referring you the most. If it says, here's the average sale, here's the closing ratio, whatever that information is that it's gathering, and then it's starting to see referrals generated by that person, it's going to start building a model, say it in a way that here's the type of customers that fall in these parameters that are going to be 70% likely to give us a referral. What else can we do? Can we add them to our referral list of how we're going to contact and connect with these people afterwards, after the jobs, which is something that's missing in our industry? I'm amazed that people don't have a way to contact past customers, not in an annoying way, but in a way that keeps the relationship alive and exciting, right? Because you want, and it's not just to drive the referral numbers. It's like you want that customer's experience to be even better so that when they're telling the story of how that project went when someone came over to see that kitchen, it's a powerful story. It's could be moving because of all the touch points, which we don't get a chance to do right now because we're back there ordering fillers or doors or whatever it is, doing a quote on some sink that takes 2 hours. It's amazing how much time is wasted. I promise you, within 2 years, if people start building these type of models, that if they had a gross margin per person 150,000, that's where I see kind of an average. I think they could double it. At least I start seeing numbers at 280,000. You have no idea what that does to your bottom line. Not only that, the ability of what you can pay your people. If you want to grow 50%, you don't have to go out and hire all these people to get there, which we all know sometimes it's the roll of the dice whether they're going to turn out to be a good salesperson or for you not, or you don't. But how much better would be that you don't have to add people, and the people that you have are going to start making more money. And then we're going to talk about what that's going to mean as far as your team is concerned, which is also exciting. I brought down the cost of marketing to about 4.7. These are new customers, so it doesn't include the existing, which would bring that number down. These are only ones that came in from marketing and then also through the referral side. Someone asked me, is it a referral if someone does a project with you, like the kitchen, and then comes back to do a bathroom? Yes, that would be included in the referral numbers because you did such a job, it created another project for you. So we included that in that number. Um, this is just showing one of the sheets that we sent out to you that you can fill in as you go through this. So you can start seeing what your numbers could be as you increase from a 0.2 to a 0.6 or a 4. You can fill these things out and you're going to start understanding the impact of what that referral ratio means. And again, this is something I just started exploring 6 months ago. And once I saw the numbers, I was like, oh, this moved into the top 3 as far as key performance indicators that I want to track because, man, the impact it can have on your business, your sales, and your brand is huge. A lot more than I ever thought or suggested it might be. So it's great numbers to understand. And you will see a like a worksheet that's going to be sent to you that has some of these things on gross margin, on the ratios, on productivity that you can fill in. And certainly you can always email me or call me if you have any questions. I'm here for that. Building your model around the AI analytics. We've talked about some of the stuff, but in this particular example, I wanted to show what it's going to do for your team. Because when you have better systems and you have ways to make the jobs easier for the people that work for you and give them the ability to increase the amount of productivity so they're not topped out at a number, that means they have the ability to raise their compensation. And that's a great thing. And it's going to cause less stress in the workplace because you have fewer problems that are going on. It's not being the fireman anymore. It's being the proactive person that's going in and setting things up so the fires don't start. Um, Once you start doing these things, and here's you'll wonder where I got these numbers. I got it from Chat GPT, but I put a lot of numbers in there, and I had some things in mind of where I thought if businesses really embrace this now and started to build their business in a tech way where things run through it instead of the manual side by looking at every process that's in there, I think those dealers could grow in market share by 20 to 40%. And that is substantial. But start to think about all the advantages that company is going to have over other companies. Their performance as far as customer experience is going to be much better. The talent that they can attract and keep is going to be better. And it's going to give people time to plan in the future instead of like going through this whirlwind stuff all the time and not really being able to look past the end of the week. Now you can start understanding what's going on in the marketplace and how you can adapt because honestly, every business is going to have to learn to quicker. They talk about emotional, intelligence. Now they say adaptability intelligence is going to be the most important in business. And I suggest strongly encourage people to start this process now because when you bring change to your organization, everybody doesn't just flock to it and start doing it. There's typically resistance to it. And this is after the leader or the manager has gotten over their resistance to be able to start saying, you know what, this is something we want to do. I was talking to a dealer earlier today, and I said, every time you're starting to have your team meetings or whatever, you need to start bringing up change. And that we're going to find new technology out there that we need to embrace so we can adapt to the environment that's going on out there. Because the ones that aren't changing are eventually going to continue to lose market share and either sell their business at a much lower price or just shutter it. Uh, I know change is hard, but it's becoming absolutely mandatory now that we're looking at how we're going to redo our business. And it's some pain in the first part because you have to learn new things and you have to go through a process that you're not familiar with, right? Everybody's like, oh, I've always done it like this. I don't want to have to do it like that. It took me long enough to learn this one. Unfortunately, the older model is not something that is going to carry you through the day. So you have to seriously look at what technologies you have now and how you can start bringing those things together to take advantage of things like AI analytics out there. Just so everybody knows, this market share growth that I'm talking about is if the market's growing by 10% and you're taking 20% market share, you're going to be growing by 25%. It's whatever the market is doing, what it's running, plus that number. And that's you start looking at that over a 3-year time frame and what it could do for your numbers. Most dealers, I just want to make sure I'm on time. Most dealers have about 2 million in sales on average. That number may have gone up a little bit, but one of the reasons why it stays so low is there's not scalability to the business. If you don't have a consistent way to run things through your business and it turns topsy-turvy in projects that are out there, it's going to cap you. And even if you try to push it up by hiring other people, it's just going to make more problems that have to be dealt with. So you need to build the business so that if everything's running smoothly and the time they're spending is in value added areas, oh man, that is gonna just be able to allow that company to go from 2 million to 4 million, 6 million. Again, in 3 years, I see a lot of dealers going from wherever they're at now, the 2 to 3 million, and being at a 6 to 8 million, or even up to 10 million if they want to, because the opportunity is going to be there. So the dynamics in the landscape are really changing. And I just wanted to say thank you so much. I know there was a lot of information to go through. If there's any questions, you can always reach out to me. I know we're going to go through a Q&A, but if we need to do it offline, that's fine. I think the leaders, the most important thing as a takeaway today is that you need to become students again. You learn the industry, you know the technical part of it, like installation, design, manufacturing, products, whatever, right? But that is not going to be the most important point of the leader and what their role is going to be. It's going to be more of understanding technology. And if you're not the person to be able to do it, maybe you find another role and have somebody else within your organization. But someone is going to have to start driving change because everybody is waiting, waiting, waiting. And what eventually is going to happen is once you get on that train, there's going to be so many dealers that are so far ahead of you that it's going to be hard to catch up. So I really, again, encourage everybody to start taking those steps. I am right at a quarter of, which is, I think, the time we're going to start taking questions. So let's move on to that.
Perfect. Yes, thank you so much, Thad, for that. I found it very insightful. We have a lot of audience questions, so we can just dive right in. The first is we had a lot of people asking, how do they get started? You mentioned Chat GPT. What should people be inputting? Is it raw data or should they be asking questions? What is step number one?
I would say step number one is having the ability to capture the information within your business. Because if you don't have that, you can put all the guidelines and goals in AI, but if it doesn't have information to look at on a consistent basis, it's not going to take you anywhere. So that would be my first step is how to collect the information that we want to get out of it through systems and hopefully not manually. And then the next step is setting up the parameters in Chat GPT. And again, I can help you just start saying, here's where we're at. This is what we want to do. Here's the things that we want to look at. And it's amazing. I mean, once you get that stuff set up in there and you can plug the information in, it will start showing you what it's seeing in there. And just last thing is ChatGPT does have APIs, so you can get information to flow back and forth.
Okay. Do you think you can put in maybe like a spreadsheet with expenses, income, just any numbers that you have? Is it kind of like an information dump and then see what comes back? Or is it better to look at your business as a whole and know your own personal goals for the business?
That's a great question. And I think one of the things that businesses are also going to need to understand is the need for collaboration. Most dealers sit on kind of an island and they don't get to have interaction. They're not always sharing numbers. They don't have metrics to compare. I have metrics, but if you're setting up the personal goals, and you don't know what other businesses are doing out there currently, like what's great numbers and what's poor numbers, I think those things will give you some guidance. And even on the financial side, I break out everything. I can send you guys a copy of what a P&L is supposed to look like. Now that may sound silly, but there happenstance right now where you can line up sales, cost of goods sold, and every expense category is grouped and it's supposed to be as a percentage of sales. And these guidelines will help you because if you look at direct sales and it's costing you 15% and the average in the industry is 10, it's going to flag you that that's one area you need to focus on.
I think something like that would be really helpful, especially because sometimes people don't know what the numbers are, like you mentioned, what's good, what's bad. So if that program was able to do that, I think that'd be helpful for the audience for sure. Our next question, you mentioned Chat GPT, but are there any other AI analytic programs or models that you recommend using?
ChatGPT is the only one I've been using. I've looked at some of the other ones out there. As we get deeper into the analytics side of it, there are different options out there, but even chat has another level of it. So it's really what you feel comfortable with. And I can't really comment on some of the other ones because I haven't used them nearly, or, it may have been a very small sample compared to what I've been doing with chat. Um, that doesn't mean it's the only solution though.
Would you say chat is good for people just starting off, novice, getting into this? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way I got in there. And it's amazing because it remembers all the stuff. Like I'm almost talking to my chat. It's like a person, I wouldn't even say assistant. I'm asking, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And it's like, well, if you're looking at the dealers and you're looking at gross margin per person, have you considered this? And I'm like, all the information I've put in there, and it has learned from. And so it's not just throwing out information that doesn't apply to what we're talking about. And that's kind of the cool part about it.
Yeah, it sounds like what you mentioned about building a model. You're putting information, the conversation that you're having with the program, it's still learning and going from there.
Yep,
Amazing.
absolutely.
I mean, that kind of leads into the next question. With AI, there is concerns for data privacy. Is there anything that you can speak to about this? Obviously, there's benefits of it holding information and building from that, but are there any drawbacks or concerns?
I haven't seen anything or heard anything out there about that information coming out of chat from what people are putting in there. I mean, you can imagine that if there was a back door where people were getting in and being able to get that information, that it would basically close down chat GPT because people would not want to put information in there knowing that people can access it. So, all the security things that I've read about it make me feel, I mean, we put information everywhere, right? Online, and they have a lot of firewalls in place. It'd be almost impossible to get to that information. So I feel pretty secure about it.
Amazing. And then we just will finish with this last question. How do you see AI analytics evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? And what should businesses do to stay ahead of this curve?
It's gonna like I'll speak maybe 5 years out because who knows in 10 years, but even at that length of time, we're gonna start seeing AI. Our world's going to change. It's going to be very different as it continues to take over different aspects. And I don't want to say take over different aspects of our life, but it's going to simplify them. It's going to process these things. It's just not going to be like push a button. That's all it does. It's going to think about what the best solutions are. One thing I'm very excited about is that people can start getting work-life balance. I see way too many people working 50, 60, 70 hours a week to accomplish what they have to do. And it's sad because it doesn't leave much time for their life. When we start running these processes together, you can have great productivity and work 40 hours a week. Um, And so to your other question, that's some of these things that I see that are going to continue to happen, the automation, the tracking. We also, well, I would like to mention the environmental aspect of it because of all the mistakes and inconsistencies in our industry. We are using so much more resources than we really need to. So that's another good thing that can come from it. If you want to stay ahead, I would suggest that you get ChatGPT, start learning about it. Like, make sure you're watching webinars that apply to this stuff, but you also need to tie yourself to a group that is focused on developing that, because this, I would never leave it in the hands of one dealer responsible to learn all this stuff. It's just too much and it's moving too fast. And that's where you can start pulling these resources together and build the strategy. It doesn't have to be just one. It may be adapted for each dealer, but having them all talk about what's happening out there and what's working is going to be really important, because you don't have to go through the school of hard knocks. Someone may already figure it out. You want to take it and keep running with it.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Thad, for the insight. This has been great. We appreciate you joining and sharing with us. Before we close out here, do you have any last remarks for the audience?
No, I hope to see you at KBIZ. And last thing I'll say is, if you ever need any help on metrics or any of that stuff, please don't hesitate to reach out. I was fortunate enough to work at a company where I was able to see it from a different level, and which was very fortunate for me. So hope you have a great year, and we all have to start to learn to change more, myself included.
Amazing. Thank you again, Thad. And thank you all for joining today. Until next time, have an amazing day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.